Welcome to another episode of the Rowdy Hour podcast. Today we're joined by the girthiest man of all time on Twitch, baby, Fritzy in the house. What's going on, Fritzy? How you doing, man?
Brother, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. How you been?
I've been good, man. Just fighting through every day, you know?
That is true. For those who are watching or listening that maybe don't know who you are, as you know, I got a lot of people from a lot of different communities that listen to this. Let them kind of know what you're about and kind of how you got to this point where you are right now.
So I'm a Madden streamer. Pride myself on being the biggest pack opening channel on Twitch. I kind of started streaming in January of 21, so coming up on 3 years. And then grew pretty quickly in the sphere and kind of was like the only guy that was really just dedicated to opening packs exclusively. Didn't really play any games. Channel continued to grow, man, and I've been doing it every day at 5 p.m. since, well, most every day. But for the last probably, I don't know, couple of months, it's just life has gotten in the way of it. So
So one question I like to ask everyone that comes on and kind of just to start things off is, how they either discovered Twitch or content creation. How did you stumble upon this crazy world that we're in with, content and Twitch?
So I was an MCS guy. I was like playing the game. I've been playing MUT like literally since the first MUT. But during COVID, I want to say it was, the MCS was live and I didn't even know what drops were, but like I had known of a couple of the pro players. And so I was in one of their streams and they had posted a Madden Live, like kind of bulletin during one of the streams. So I'd seen, hey, there's this guy J Dubs streaming in the morning, and then Zan at the time was on there, and Kay. I don't think Yimmy was there yet, but it was a good group of guys, right? And so I stumbled in. The first stream that I ever watched was Zan's. And I watched Zan every single time that he went live going forward after that. And then Zan rated me into K's stream. And then one day K rated me into J-Dub stream. And the next thing you know, I was just watching Madden streams all the time, right? Like I'd be up playing the game and, doing what I actually ended up streaming, which is like opening packs and just enjoying the menus, right? And it wasn't really, the menus really weren't quite what they had become in like 22, 21, 22, 23 Maddens. This was Madden 20. So it really wasn't there yet. Like Kay was managing market stuff and like trying to build coins and do all that good stuff. And that was kind of unique to his channel at that time. And I just spent so much time in there. Like I was giving away cards in people's streams, just trying to like help out and whatever. And yeah, somehow that just butterflied into my son wanting to stream. And I was like, well, I'm not letting you on there, unless I check the waters first. And I did. And the next thing you know, I just started like getting a bunch of viewers like really, really quickly. And 4.5 months later, I was partnered on Twitch.
Yeah, you, I think, have been one of the people that I've seen hit partner the quickest. Which is for those who are out there watching this that are not part of the Madden community. Madden is definitely, I would say, one of those communities that you can hit partner pretty quick in compared to most other communities, I guess we could say. So it's
Yeah.
it's definitely different from other communities. And for those who don't know what he was talking about with MCS, MCS is Madden's esports, pretty much the best of the best. You have your esports and all types of games. That's pretty much what he was referring there. Is just their esports. Now, one thing about you, Fritzy, that I really appreciate is you have talked about your upbringing and how you were given a lot of second chances from people and how it wasn't
Mhm.
always the easiest thing for you. Kind of just dive into as much as you want to. By the way, kind of just dive into a little bit about that and just I guess your upbringing and kind of like growing up.
Yeah, sure. So I was a kind of like a bad kid right from the start. If I'm being honest, I tell the story somewhat often, not all the time, but will not forget. I was in a fight with the fifth. I was in first grade. I was in a fight with the fifth grader. I took all of his stuff, his book bag, his books, and I threw it all out the window of the bus. And I knew I was in trouble. And I remember the principal calling to our house, and I can hear, because this is old school, right? So like you're still on regular phones, right? Like corded phones, and they're loud as hell. And so I could hear what the principal was saying to my mom. And I'm like, I know I'm cooked, like I'm positive I'm cooked. And then I hear my mom say, well, I'll have a talk with Matthew. And then Matt's my older brother, right? My brother was in fifth grade. And the principal's like, no, it's not Matthew that we're having a problem with. It's Nick. And the look on my mom's face was like so disappointed, because I'm the youngest of 4 kids. And so like anybody who knows family dynamics kind of knows that like the youngest kid ends up being mama's boy or girl or whatever. It's just part of a family hierarchy, right? Because like dad's kind of, I'm much younger than my oldest sibling, 9 years, so old, there's enough of a differential. So like my mom was kind of the only one that was kind of looking out for me, if you may. My brother did, but he is also 4 years older than me. And my brother had some like mental issues in his youth, so he was very physical and very violent. And I dealt with a lot of crap, but it made me like that, right? So fast forward, I go through middle school. I'm kind of just quiet in middle school, and kind of what seemed like got some stuff together. All the while, I was a really high level baseball player and a good basketball player. I was recruited for basketball, but mostly for Division II. But I was one of the best baseball players in the country. And I had been getting recruited actively by both colleges and professional teams since I was in like 8th grade. I think the first college letter I got was in like 7th grade for baseball. I was a big guy because I'm 6'5". I ended up at the height of my recruitment, I was like 6'5", 220, right? And I spent a lot of time just worried about sports, and I ended up just becoming a complete shithead, man. Excuse my language, but that's just like what I was. I was so cocky, so brazen, so brash, like all the issues that I had in my childhood, like, I'm still a child at this time, right? But like all the issues that I had, I wasn't really fighting people or doing any of that stuff at that age. But it was manifesting itself in other things that I did, in my attitude, in my approach towards others in life, and just like a I'm better than you mentality. Well, I ended up playing, I was a varsity basketball and baseball player all 4 years. And my senior year of high school, this is like kind of the big show, right? I had a somewhat of a commitment from the Atlanta Braves. It looked like I'd probably be drafted somewhere in the 3rd round, which for baseball is not uncommon, right? People get drafted out of high school all the time. Doesn't mean that you're going to make it to the big leagues. You're going to go play in some farm system. You might sit there your whole career and ride around on buses and make pennies, right? Or you could make it to the show. And so I didn't care about school. I didn't care about anything else. So I'm playing basketball. At the time, we were a highly ranked basketball team, actually, in the state. And we were in the middle of a game. It would have been our first loss had we taken it. The coach told us he gave up at halftime. I'm standing there waiting for the inbound as we had closed a 25-point lead, and we were down to like 5 points left. And the coach pulls out all the starters, and I was obviously one of the starters. And the away gym is where we were at, and it was kind of like silent. And I said, "Are you serious?" And he screamed at us. And so I ran. My dad was my coach in my youth, so I ran, as my dad always taught me, to the end of the bench and like shut my mouth and don't say anything. So that's what I did. Well, on my way there, he grabbed me by the shirt, and he was 6'7", so he's a big guy. My coach was a big guy, and I like flipped around, and I remember the sound of the kids in the gym, and they were like, "Oh," and here I am. Remember the description. I'm this brazen, cocky, just like overall crappy human being. And so I just felt like I got made fun of, like right in front of everybody, right? And like testing me in my manhood. And I'm full of hormones because I'm, 17 years old. And I'm like, nah, this isn't going to fly. So after the game, I told the coach, I'm like, you ever touch me like that again, I'm going to knock you out. And so we get on the bus and we're heading home from the away school. And I'm in the back saying 5 points. And my buddies, of course, You know how buddies are back in those days. They're gassing me up because I'm the loudmouth. They know that they can get me going. So I'm saying it louder and louder, and the coach jumps up out of his seat and he walks to the back of the bus and grabs me by the shirt, and I knocked him out cold in the middle of the bus. The police, the bus pulled over. The police came and got me off of the bus. I didn't get charged. It was foreshadowing what would end up happening to me later, the next few years. But I didn't get charged. I was kicked off of the teams. All the stuff was reported to the people that were scouting me. And basically everything I'd worked my entire life for was just gone. I was told that I could go to a community college and like get my grades up, but the colleges that had been scouting me had already told to screw off, and my grades weren't there because I was just going to be a professional baseball player. Like, I didn't really care about anything or anybody else. So I started drinking, man. I started drinking like crazy, and I didn't drink in high school. So like I smoked weed from time to time, but kind of like you would see in a movie, if you may. Like, I don't mean for it to sound like that, but I would kind of just like dabble. I didn't really do any hard drugs. I didn't do any of that type of stuff. And when this all happened, I just started drinking like every single day. I ended up going to college, a community college, and when I got there, instead of using the money that my parents were generous enough to try to like help me get through the first semester while I got my feet, under me, I ended up just spending all of it on booze and pizza and doing nothing all day. I just drank, ate Adderall, and just kind of like washed my entire life down the drain. You know what I mean? Everything that was going to be something turned into nothing. So I ended up back home really quickly. Thank God my parents didn't give up on me necessarily, and I went back to school and I ended up getting multiple associate's degrees and certificates to be a sound engineer. So I started making music at that point from an engineer side of things, and was lucky enough to work in studios that Eminem was in Ferndale, Michigan, and I worked with guys like Obi Trice and other artists. But I also got way more addicted to Adderall and to drugs, specifically alcohol. I smoked a ton of weed, which, whatever. At that time, it was still a drug, right? Like, now everybody knows better. But at that time, you know what I mean? I was eating 180 milligrams of Adderall. I was smoking weed all day. I was drinking a half gallon of booze every day, and just like working all day and night on music and ringing the register just left and right and left and right. And I remember waking up one day and I had to go to Lowe's for whatever it was. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, I need Adderall to go to Lowe's. Like, I can't go without it. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I got a problem. Like, I got like a serious fucking problem right now. So I ended up checking myself into a rehab facility. And I don't know that I necessarily needed it to quit at that time, but I knew that I needed to sleep, and I knew that I needed to give myself the ability to sleep. I needed to like do something for myself, right? I had been in this whirlwind for like 5 years of just trying to reprove my worth. So I did, and I was successful with it. And during all of that time that all that music stuff was going on, I was actively getting arrested for fighting people constantly, assault and batteries constantly. Just genuinely, just like a very like toxic, terrible human. Shortly after I got out of rehab, I stayed sober. I never took Adderall another day in my life. And then at a point convinced myself that like alcohol wasn't a problem. But during this time, I had like created an addiction, like a true addiction. And the addiction that I had to sports had now turned into addiction of substances and kind of like whatever I could, put my hands on. And then I was lucky enough to meet my now wife, and she kind of helped me, navigate that path of getting my self back and, really being able to pick up from there. I've been sober a long time now. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I do ingest nicotine. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do anything because I have the disease of more, right? I am an addict. I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict. I'm not a practicing one, but I have the disease of more, and many humans do. But it doesn't matter what it is. I will strive to do more, and I can use that, what my therapist calls a superpower, right? Like to be able to grind something to that level and be content about it is a kind of an awesome thing. But when that energy is put in the wrong direction, it can be some of the most toxic stuff that a human can get themselves into. So I mean, there's way more pieces within there, but I think that that's like, without just doing straight an hour and a half talk, that's kind of like me trying to put a bubble around, how that portion of my life went.
I appreciate you sharing that, man. Because honestly, I've known bits and pieces of your story, but I've never really been able to kind of hear, a big chunk of it like that. And that's one of the things that I love about bringing people on and all different people from walks of life in the podcast is just being able to give different perspectives of life, right? And being able to show people that, no matter what walk of life you come from, you can, like I think your story really shows that you can overcome it and that it is never too late, right? It is never truly too late to overcome whatever obstacles you have in life. And so I really do appreciate you sharing that, because I guarantee you it's going to help somebody out there. They might not be going necessarily what you're going through, they might just be going through a tough time, but you kind of telling about your resilience and being able to push through, get to where you are now in life and be able to overcome everything that you've went through. I feel like can definitely help somebody out there, so I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, it's ironic, that I hear people all the time. I actively go to AA, right? Like I still go. I go to this day. Um, and alcohol like wasn't really necessarily even my drug of choice. Adderall was, but alcohol was like number two, and it was a direct result of Adderall. And they're married to each other. But I learned so much stuff in there. Like I don't regret my past, nor wish to shut the door on it. Like I'm very, very happy that I did this stuff. On paper, my like, somebody could like go dig into my life and try to expose me and whatever. I'm very out, I'm outward, or I'm upfront about who I am because I'm not ashamed of what I went through. And I think that we're at a point in society where people are, we're so quick to shame others for things that they've done or what they went through, and we lack the ability to understand the human element of things. We're not a book, we're not a piece of paper that you write goals down on and then stuff just happens, right? We're complicated emotional beings that have way more to them than that, and you don't really know what anybody's gone through or why certain things happen with them, or what triggered something. So like and I'll kind of end this portion of it, or go however long you want about it, but this is why it's so important to me. If you ever notice, I don't really like gang up or jump on people that have had issues in their past, and I'm much more inclined to if somebody says, "Oh, this guy's this and this guy's that," I'm even willing to let them screw up right to me, and still give that second chance, because I don't know where I'd be without certain people being there for me when, I'm ready to collapse and I'm doing everything wrong and I just can't stop effing things up. If I didn't have some people there to pat me on the back and be like, dude, you're going to be all right, where would I be today? And so, that's important to me.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, with you overcoming all of that, right, and just being able to persevere, how much of that being able to just push through that do you feel like has maybe helped you not be affected as much by, like, obviously the lows of streaming, considering everything you'd be able to overcome, right? Because you have to be strong mentally to
Mm.
push through, the low numbers, and there are good times and bad times in content creation, and those bad days can sometimes get to a lot of people. Do you
Yeah.
feel like, considering all the stuff that you have overcome, you're not as affected as much by that stuff as maybe some other people are, or do you think you're still affected as much as other people are?
I'm a human, so I'm greedy. I'm greedy to some extent. I remember what last year, like really during the heat of things, and I remember when I got 2,000 viewers with no raid, and I was like, man, this is awesome, right? Like I want to do this every day. And I did for like a period of time, right? But like just as the normal flow of a game cycle, especially when you play in a specific game like this, right? There's a cycle to it. Um, I remember it getting into like February and only having, I'm saying this and I feel like a bad person when I say this, only having like 5 or 6 or 700 people in there and being like, man, where did everybody go? You know, and it's weird. It's you know, they always tell you like when you don't make much money that you find a way to live within your means. And you always tell yourself when you're there that if you made more, none of this stuff would be a problem. The problem is when you make more, then you participate in more. And the same gosh darn problem is still there. And so another thing that in the older that I've gotten, the more that I understand that there's just certain human things you can't chase away. They're just never going to go away. You could be a billionaire and you will find ways to make problems for yourself because that's what we are. That's just inherent inside of us. So a very long-winded way to say it still affects me the same way that it affects you. Um, I still have times where I, boot up and it's just like for right now, I have no reason to stream right now. I don't enjoy getting on the game that I used to love the way that I did. And it's very difficult for me to accept the fact that I have no control over changing it and turning it back into just like and I was, mind you, I'm spending thousands of dollars, right? And I'm like willfully losing it because I enjoy like doing these roles, but I'm getting 80% back, 75% back, even sometimes winning once in a blue moon. I'm okay with that loss. But now I could spend Rowdy $1,000 right now while we're on this podcast. And before I'm done with the podcast, I will have no currency left from that entire $1,000. And to me, that's what it just got unacceptable. So yeah, I go through the same highs and lows that you do. Do I think that they affected me maybe as much as some others? Probably not, just because I've seen some really deep lows. And so there's some perspective there. There's some perspective on like what my life can actually be in these really dark times. And I just constantly try to chase the light, man. It's like, I know that sounds stupid or cliche, but I constantly try to chase the light. Doesn't always work, but that's always my goal, is to just like find a place where I can be okay, average. I'm cool with average, man. Average is a great day.
Yeah, I really like that. You got any tips out there for those struggling with that? I know you've personally had conversations with me about that. And you're one of the people that I really enjoy talking to about a lot of stuff personal, because you do really give a good perspective on it a lot of times, which I really appreciate. What's like your number one tip out there for people who struggle with the lows of content creation, when it just they don't feel like they're getting, there's no wheels turning, and it just feels like you're making no traction. What's your tip for people out there?
I don't think it's just specific to Twitch, but I think it's more of like a life thing. You know what I mean? Managing expectations. I think like the most important thing that you can do in life. I think we set ourselves up for failure, like beyond what we should most times. Um, if you think you're going to go up to bat and hit a home run and you end up with a single, you're a lot more affected by that than if you're just excited to be at bat in the first place. And so I try to manage what I'm expecting out of an outcome, right? And not trying to predetermine it. Again, human instinct thing, nothing that nothing that you're going to be able to be perfect at or just straight walk away from. I'm no better than anybody else in that regards. Part of the reason, and I'll share it. You didn't necessarily bring it up, but I'll tell you, tell you why. I shared with my chat for the first time. For the last like 3 months, I've been suffering from crippling panic attacks, and I had those when I was young, when I was 18, when all this stuff happened that I told you about, and I masked it all with alcohol and drugs, and I can't do that now. You're right. So like I won't take any prescription drugs. I won't take anything, even if a doctor wants me to. So I had to fight through this by myself, right? And when I share stuff like that with people and then they start feeling bad for me or telling me to like do better, it triggers something inside of me that like makes me start to feel bad for myself, you know? And when I do that, it makes everything worse. So I try to find my mental fortitude in my spirituality, my connectedness with the earth as a whole, and just remember that, you know, nothing is ever as good as it seems and nothing's ever as bad as it seems. But for those people that don't and have never had a panic attack, which is most people, panic attack isn't like an anxiety attack, right? Panic attack is a straight up out of body experience where I'll be sitting there and I don't feel attached to myself in any way, shape, or form. I can move my arms and I can feel them if I pinch myself, but I don't feel connected to myself at all. And for people that experience it for the first time, like they think that they're having a heart attack or that they're dying or, you know, those types of things, or that they're going to pass out. That doesn't happen to me at this point in my life, but it was really bad, man. And a lot of that was just stress and the fact that the game wasn't where I wanted to. I wanted to control the outcomes. I wasn't managing expectations properly. And so I took some time to get it together, and I'm doing much better now. But it just goes to show, like, I have a warrior's vest, a whole chest full of tools that I built over years and years and years. And even with all that being said, I was unable to keep that you know, that devil out of me. So I don't think that you ever get perfect at it, and I think that trying to manage your expectations is like the only way that you can try to find some peace, you know?
Yeah, I man, you are putting some wisdom out here on the podcast. Which is what I expected, man. Because like I said, you're very wise and you know a lot because you have been through a lot. And you know, I like I said, I really appreciate you just giving people so many tips out here just for life. Honestly, I think everything you've said so far can apply to not only content creation but just life in general, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I've lived about an extra 20 years past what I am, you know, age-wise right now, but whether that's good or not, hopefully that doesn't shave it off the back end of things, you know?
Yeah. Um, like I said, you spoke about earlier about your son wanting to get into streaming and stuff like that.
Mhm.
You are a dad. How many kids do you have?
I have 4.
Yeah, so you're a dad of four. You're a are you a part time owner of your business, or are
No,
you the owner?
I no, I am not the owner.
Okay,
I am second in charge, so I run a portion. There's 2 portions of the business. I run one of the portions of the business. I don't have any stake in the business, but I run the environmental side. So lead, asbestos, mold, pathogens. Um, I protect our customers, but I also protect my company from, you know, getting sued. So I have like a science background, environmental systems background, and that was something that I did later on in life. But I between school and then self-educated myself, and um, I started as a guy who's shoveling poop out of people's basements, man, for property restoration. When I met my wife, she, you know, music wasn't really going to be conducive to the lifestyle that we wanted. She never forced me to quit necessarily doing music, but it was just the right time. And so I had to start from the bottom. And I did that working 100 hours a week. I was never home, and I educated myself along that way, you know, along that or during that process. And well, a decade and a half later, yeah, I sit in the second chair in the office, and we're a successful and growing company, and it's nice to be able to help people, you know, because that's essentially what my job is.
yep, and you're also a part time streamer. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, what's it like having so many things, right? I mean, be honest. Being a dad is like it's technically three jobs, really, right? You've got the streamer part, you've got being a dad and stuff like that, and then
Mhm.
you've got the owner part. What's that kind of like? Like how busy is your life, honestly? Like, do you have any time to just kind of like sit down and kind of just process everything you're doing? Because like it seems like a lot that you're doing. Do you ever just kind of sit down and be like, "Damn, this is a lot of stuff that I've got going on"?
The last 3 months, when I was been going through this stuff, I've been able to sit down a little bit more, right? But I wish it was for pleasure, right? But I've like been sitting down because I've been really struggling to, stay alive is the wrong term, but kind of, right? It feels like I've been fighting for my life for like the last 3 months. Prior to that, no, I didn't really have much time. When I sit on the couch, there's kids jumping on me, asking me a million questions. Do you want to do this, Dad? Do you want to do that? One of my kids, my youngest are twins, and my youngest son is nonverbal autistic as well. So, which he's a load of fun. He truly is a load of fun. But yeah, I mean it's busy. Idle hands don't do good for anybody, man. And I stick by that. I'll stick by that, and I'll give that advice to people until the day that I can't breathe anymore. The mind is a very nasty place to be stuck in. And if you have any bit of reasonable intelligence, spending too much time inside of your head is some of the just absolute nastiest, dirtiest streets that you could possibly walk in. And so for me, staying busy is a way to stay sane. It's a way to harness and collect my focus and be present in the moment. Um, and so that's very important to me. Idle hands will cause me a lot of problems, and I think a lot of people can say that for themselves as well. You do a lot of reflecting when you just sit around. And so when you start reflecting and having inner dialogue and conversations with yourself, I promise you, within a couple hours, you'll find a reason to dislike yourself. And that's not just me. That's another human complex, right? And so I try not to put myself in those positions. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work every day, for the opportunity to stream every day, for the opportunity to be a father every day, and just try to remember, where I came from, and then like what it was before. And this is not so dang bad. This is a lot of fun in comparison. So
Um, Now, like I said, you're not obviously you've talked about it. You are not a full time content creator like some other people I've had on are. If you ever had the opportunity, right? Let's say to make the money that you make now, being able to be a content creator, would you ever do it? Like, if you were able to
yes,
make, would 100%?
that'd be a dream of mine. Yeah, man, I love entertaining people. I love being a jokester. I love having a good time. And as crazy as this sounds, the person that you get to see on stream or that, might be giving stream advice or any of those things is so far from what I actually am. You know, I'm like, I can't be that way ever during work, right? I have a very big share of responsibility at the company. I can with my coworkers. Um, so I am able, I'm in the construction business per se. So like, these guys don't lack a personality, right? And so you can bust each other's chops and have a good time there, which is nice. But streaming is a truly an outlet for me and allows me to feel like a kid again and to make those like locker room jokes and just kind of be like a bit over the top, hence the girthy thing, right? And just enjoy myself, enjoy my surroundings, enjoy the people. Like it doesn't, you know, there's so many guys that I see streaming, and this is in no way judging that it's just like this program, and we're gonna start with this, and then we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna do this, and like I just get on and I'm like, whatever, man, let's just have some fun, you know? And that's nice. That's freeing. The only thing I ever worry about with doing it, if I were to ever get the opportunity to do it full time, was do I take all that away? Does that all go away? And that's why I don't wish that. If it happens, it's supposed to happen. Um, Probably won't happen. That's just the reality of it. And I don't think I'd ever be willing to take the risk of like putting my family or anything in jeopardy to try to make my dreams come true. I'm kind of living my dream, dude. I wanted to have kids. I wanted to have a wife that loved me. I wanted to like come home to a place of peace, and I have all that. So, and we got food on the table. We got gas in our cars. We have two of those things. Crazy. Didn't know how I was going to do that, but we do, right? And I have a house that I own, you know? And so it's like, it's pretty cool, man. Like, I don't know that I have what I need. There's things that I want, but everybody wants things. You don't always need stuff, you know? I have what I need.
Now, with that being said about you, you probably wouldn't want to do content full time just because of like you wouldn't want to put your family in that situation, right? Even if you were making the money, you still, feel like maybe be scared you might possibly lose that fun factor for it. Which I agree. I feel like a lot of people
Yeah.
I've seen happen now, like they're making all the money in the world, but then they just get burnt out on it because it's so
Yep.
taxing, what you need to do. If any of your kids ever wanted to be a full-time content creator, would you support it, or would you kind of just sit them down and kind of just manage their expectations, I guess, a little bit about it?
No, I do support it. My son Dean is like beyond an amazing Fortnite player. He's still not old enough to compete, but when he is, he will absolutely be allowed to. One of the biggest gifts that my parents ever gave me growing up was um I did have a natural like baseball. It was very easy to tell, and I'm just gonna try to be as honest with it without it sounding like I'm not trying to put gas under anything. I just want to be clear about that. But my parents knew that I was something different than the other kids really early in baseball. I was hitting home runs out of the ballpark in first grade, fences of like 225 feet, right? Most of the first graders couldn't even hit the ball into the outfield. And I'm just caking home runs every single time that I'm up to bat. And my parents let me and pushed me to achieve my goals. I remember growing up, we replaced 4 garages because to practice, I would throw tennis balls off the garage and field the ball off of the garage. And I would do this for sometimes 6, 7 hours a day. I'll do it in the middle of winter time here in Michigan where I'm slipping and sliding. I remember getting stitches because I was doing exactly that, in the middle of winter and slam my face onto the ice and not, knocked myself out. So yeah, I want my kids to push themselves. I will also say this. There was plenty of things that I wanted to do in my life that my parents were honest with me and just said, "Hey, you can't do all of it, right? If you want to do this, then put your energy into this. We'll support you in doing that." But it was kind of like pursue something. If you want to be an expert at something, do less and less or more, do less and less different things. And so that's kind of like that's where I stand on that. I want my son to pursue his dreams. If I feel like there's a point where I'm looking at the competition and I think it's an insurmountable type of thing, I will be honest with him and tell him the truth. Um, I haven't seen that person yet. Dude is really good. He is really good, man. But until then, I gas him up. You know what I mean? I want him to feel good. I want him to understand that I appreciate the effort he puts into it. And whether he wants to be an engineer or video gamer, who am I to judge? It's kind of really not my life decision. It's his.
I love that. I like also how you gas him up. That's a good parent right there. Gassing him up on the Fortnite against other people. I like that.
Of course, yeah.
Now you have this thing. You always do like this whole like girthy, like big girthy thing. Where did
Mhm.
that originate from? Because I'm always interested about people that bring on when they have like something like that. Like where does that come from? Because I honestly, truly have no idea where you got that from.
So there was a guy who came into my chat years ago, and his name was Copious Girth. And I saw his name and immediately, without me thinking a thing, said, "Oh yeah, Girthy." And of course, you always get in streaming, you get a response from the chat, right? And so, like, the chat was like, I mean, I could tell they were into it, right? And so the next thing you know, I'm like, well, if you're into it, I'm into it too. I kind of like this, this like fits my scheme, the way that I am, right? My joking locker room type of banter. And so the next few streams, I opened it up by like the second that I would hit the go live, I'd say, "Oh yeah, girthy." And people loved it. And so I just kept doing it. Now, I'll be honest with you, Rowdy. There's times that I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is so weird. This is like super weird. But it's funny and it's become kind of just a thing with my chat. And so I enjoy it. Now it's not weird to me, but for a while there, it was like one of those forced things where I was like, oh man, this might be too much. What does it even mean? My kids, my Dean just tapped in. He just heard me say "Ooh, girthy" on the way into the stream, you know. But yeah, I mean, I guess at this point, how do you even shelter your kids, right? It's 2023, so they're gonna hear and see plenty of stuff that's much worse.
That's true. I had GTA 5 when I was in 6th grade,
Right.
so I was exposed to everything very early.
Yep, yep. Which isn't always a bad thing, you know.
No.
It's really not.
Um, Now, like I said, with the girthy thing, entertaining people, what do you think is one of your like? What makes you so good at entertaining people? You think what do you think helps you be able to entertain as well as you do compared to some other people out there?
Say that one more time, Rowdy.
What do you think helps you be able to entertain people so well like you do on Twitch?
Connection, man. I think the thing I don't need anything from anybody. So when I got on and started doing this stuff, when I interact with you in the chat, whether it's busting your chops, you busting mine, or us just having a friendly conversation, it's truly genuine. Like I don't need somebody's money. I don't need somebody's attention. I don't need, and I think that I show that within my actions within the stream, and I don't necessarily do that purposely. You're asking me to like try to logically work it through, and I think that a lot of streamers can come off needy or beggy or those types of things. I'll push a special stream, no different than anybody else would, right? If we're running a subathon, if we're doing something like that, a charity stream like we did for autism, I will push the chat there. But I do it in rare enough occasions. I feel like when I do it, they know that it's for a reason, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Now you talk about relationships, like that being one of your things. You have done a really good job of you've made so many great friends, right, with people that you have met through your chat. I know you do a thing. It's either the second or third year you've done it, right? I believe it's called what is it?
It,
Girth giving. Is that what
Girth
you call it?
giving,
Yeah,
yeah.
girth giving,
Yep.
where you invite a bunch of people that you've
Yeah.
met through in your Twitch chat over to your house for Thanksgiving. Who come from all over, right? They're not, it's
Yeah.
not a lot of them. I don't. Are any of them local or are they all flying
Well,
different places?
one is now, but he moved across the country, but he wasn't, it's Todd.
Okay.
Lived in Vegas. But he actually moved. He lives 10 minutes down the road from me now, but everybody else, yeah, is from all over the country.
Just kind of talk about that and like how cool that is to be able to build, those type of relationships, be able to invite people that you have made that relationship with into your home, for a meal together and just kind of be thankful for each other.
It's great. Twitch is like an extended family to me. It's not everybody. I'm not going to sit here and tell you. Mine was. And shout out to Fend, right? I know you've had him on here. Fend did FenCon. A little different than Girth Giving, right? FenCon, kind of like anybody was kind of allowed to come within reason. I'm sure that'll probably change now that he has a family, specifically a child. But mine was somewhat handpicked. You know what I mean? It wasn't I didn't just allow anybody into my home. This is where my kids stay. This is their house first, above all. And like Who Is Beans has become a really good friend of mine over time, and Sante, who's another streamer, and Todd and J Bug, who I know is in the stream right now, was invited to the thing, and I've made some really good lifelong friends. The older that you get, the less friends that you have. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a good way. The older you get, the tighter your circle gets, and you start to realize who's really there for you and who you really want to be there for. I'm lucky to have friends that I do, which there was 4 of them that were here, but Todd has become a true best friend of mine, right? I talk to Todd every single day. Grateful that he was looking for a better school system. The area that I live in has a great school system. And, I threw it out there like kind of as a joke, right? Because I spent so many hours talking to him, just talking about life and other stuff. Because Todd's a smart guy. And he was like, well, we'll come out and check it out during Girth Giving, right? This was the first year. I never met this man in my entire life, Rowdy, right? Other than via the internet, right? On a video call. Now, quite a bit of time spent. But he came here, and it was like we had known each other for our entire lives. And fast forward 7 months later, and he lives 15 minutes down the road from me. This guy moved from the other side of the country. Our wives are great friends now. Our kids are great friends now. And it's like all of this and I truly credit that stuff to intentions. To intentions of like what you're really doing with your community. Are you really there for them the way that they're there for you? And Twitch can be a weird place, right? There's a lot of weird people on Twitch. If you come to my stream, you'll know that I encourage people to be weird. And I don't ban people very easily. It takes a lot of effort to get banned in my stream. You're going to have to say something about children or women that is completely egregious, okay? With that being said, there's some really great people, like truly, and you never know where your next comrade or Beans and Melly Del Rio, who are in a great relationship, have been for a long time, met on Twitch, right? So it's a cool feeling to see that, like, hey, I went from was a pretty darn small group of friends, and I have quite a few more of them. These people are in my house, and like when I see them, whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 times a year, whatever it ends up being, I'm genuinely excited to see them. They feel like family to me, like genuinely feel like family to me. And so I think that's a really, really cool thing, and I don't think every community has that, because a lot of the time the streamer will put themselves above their community, and it's just not something I've ever been about or wanted, right? I just want to be one of the guys that's, I just want to be one of the guys. That's it, man. Just I think how most people are.
Yeah, no, I think that building a relationship with the community, especially like you have done, is one of the biggest keys to building a successful platform. Honestly, true. I talked to Finn about it, and everyone I've talked to so far has, kind of said the same thing about you. It's so cool how you just build these relationships with these people that you meet over the internet, and truly they really do become, honestly, like they really do end up becoming IRL friends, even though, like, obviously you're not, you can't hang out in person, not with all of them, but they really do end up becoming real life, like, IRL friends at some point, because of just how much you get to know each other and how much you share with each other, and just a lot that you go through together. And I think that's just one of the coolest things about the internet. I know a lot of people hate a lot of stuff about the internet, but at the end of the day, I think that's one of the biggest pros that has came from the internet becoming as big as it has.
I agree with you, and I think that I think seeing people in person, it always has a different feel to it, right? I can definitely say that, but because I remember seeing Beans for the first time, right? And he told me he's 6'5", and I'm like actually 6'5", right? Like a real, like, straight down the line 6'5". And I remember Beans walking into the hall, because he lives in Tampa area, Orlando area of Florida. And I went down to Pensacola, Florida. And so it's like the first time we were going to be able to meet. So I'm like, well, why don't you and your girlfriend come to, and, I'll, come stay out in the area, and like, I'll take you to dinners, and you guys come hang at the pool with us, whatever. And he's like, yeah. He walks in the hotel room, and I'm like, this dude is not 6'5". He's like 9 feet tall. I don't have to look up to anybody, right? And he walks in, and I'm like, there's just no way. So I go stand next to him. So we have an argument, right, for like 40 minutes, obviously in good fun. And I'm telling him, I'm like, dude, you're not 6'5". Like, you're not. So fast forward to Girth Giving, which is like 5 months later, and he flies in. And the first thing that I do when he gets to my house is measure him and find out that he's almost 6'7". And he's like, oh, I didn't know I was so tall. And I'm like, I knew I was 6'5". You've been telling people that have been telling you they're 6'5"? Because he's telling me these stories like, everybody tells me they're 6'5", but then they stand next to me and they're shorter, so they're not 6'5". And he finally realized that he's the one who's not 6'5". Everybody else probably was, and he just didn't even know how tall he was.
That's kind of insane, not knowing how tall you are. Like, just they like,
and then yelling at other people about it. Like, no, you're not. Oh, it's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now you talked about earlier how you haven't been streaming as much, right? There is a lot of stuff going on with I wouldn't even say that it's EA at this point. You know, a lot of people are upset with stuff going on with Madden. There's been a big, I hate to say it, I hate that it's becoming this thing, but there's been this big issue as of late with just more than just EA, but a lot of big game companies just
Mhm.
not treating their consumers how they should, considering the amount of money and time that their consumers put into their product. And that goes for not even the content creators that really are getting treated how they should, but also just the average daily consumer. What do you think is the biggest issue that has led to this uptick in companies doing this with just releasing games that they're not unfinished, they have bugs all the time, it takes forever to get a response from the company? What do you what do you think could be the biggest what's the biggest like reason that this has been happening as of late?
Well, there is no fix, first of all. Um, I'm going to say it in the simplest terms I possibly can. And I'm going to relate it to everything else you see in your life. There's a 24-hour news cycle, right? And being that it's a 24-hour news cycle, they have to fill spots. And in those spots, there's going to be a lot of rubbish, a lot of things that don't mean anything to anybody. And a lot of them are going to appeal to some of the worst aspects of human nature, whether that be you're on Twitter and come past morbid whatever page or 1,000 ways to die, right? I mean, people are just filling time, and the gaming industry is no different than any other industry. They are on a 24/7, 365 cycle. And the experience of games that are truly done are gone except in anomaly situations. Like I'm praying that GTA 6 is one of those scenarios, right? Where they come out with a complete game and their track record says that they will, right? Um, but the reality is why would Madden care? Why, and I'm using Madden because it's my specific game, but why would they care? They can produce the same game every year. We will continue to get on and play it. Guys like Dubby will tell you that their comp, they got to. Guys like myself will say this and that's broken. Guys that are in the middle will care about their solo battles and their inability to do this. And as you've seen on Twitter in the last 24 hours, instead of everybody being mad at the right people, we're all just mad at each other instead. So it really works out perfect. And this is kind of the way that media in general, especially when you put the social aspect into it, has kind of allowed companies to steer that ship and turn us against each other more than us being, able to turn that ship back towards them and say, hey, no, we should be able to have all of this. This shouldn't be an issue right now. I shouldn't lose all these coins. Dubby should be able to play his weekend league. Rowdy should be able to have access to his solo battles and watch his head-to-head record track. These things should all be able to happen. But no, instead we're like infantile, we're like prehistoric animals in our beating our chest and I'm Mr. Right. And so everybody just ends up yelling at each other. And in a very long-winded way to say that nobody's ever going to hold them accountable. So if they're going to just sit there, mind you, Rowdy, they were spending more time on a game, only making $60 per game. And now they're spending less time on the game, making that 60 plus thousands more per player. Do you really think that they care about anything that we have to say? The answer is no, they don't. It is never going to change. This is just where we are with video gaming. And, at some point, maybe there is something that like brings it up to that precipice and something changes as a result of it. I don't know that we'll ever see that. But if we do, I think it's going to take some sort of a tidal wave type event, and it's going to be across all games. It's not just going to be across sports games or Rocket League or whatever it might be, right? Because like every game has something that you can buy in it at this point. And now our children think that that's normal, right? I don't think it's normal because when I was a kid, you bought a video game and you got The entire game. The whole game came with it. Imagine that, dude. Imagine like buying Sonic and the entire Sonic game was there. There was no like, hey, but by the way, for an extra $18.99 right now, you can get the other half of the game that we created, but decided not to give you so we could charge you again 3 months from now. You know, we allowed it. So I don't know that you can turn back from that. And I think you'd see studios more inclined to close under those type of situations than you would back away from the model.
Yeah, it's so crazy how we've gotten to this point. Honestly, it really is sad. But I mean, like you said, they're gonna make all these companies are gonna make their money every year, and especially sports game studios are definitely gonna make their money because it's the only one you have, right? Each one of them has the license to each sport, right? You've got SDS, they have the license to baseball, and then you've got 2K who has the license to the NBA. Got EA who has the license to Madden. It's really it's really hard for especially sports games to try to get the companies to change their ways because like you said, where else are you gonna go? Whereas I feel like even first person shooters, I don't feel like it's gonna change with any company, honestly, because you're just people are gonna buy. I mean, people want to play it. They're gonna buy it and
Yeah.
they're gonna
It's not just that too, right? So like, say I hate it, right, Rowdy? Say I hate it. Okay. There will be a kid. He'll likely be somewhere between 16 and 21 years old. He wants to become a streamer. And guess what? He didn't play Madden 16, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, or 22. And this is all he knows. For him, this is normal. So he's out there like, why do I care? Like, of course I'm going to stream this game. I love this game. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there like Mr. 90-year-old grandpa, like, you have no idea what it was like in my day, son. And this is the part that we always forget. That's the reality of it, man. That's why your parents will tell you how much different it was and how much better it was when they were a kid. And they wish that you could have that. And every generation does that. Every generation does that because the clamps get put on just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And the people that are involved at the time that it's happening don't know that it's happening.
Well, it is what it is. I got two more
Yep.
questions for you before we get out of here. I want to ask you, what's your coolest moment that you have had in content creation? Like, just kind of sit back and you're like, damn, that's cool, and that wouldn't have happened, if I wouldn't decide to turn this camera on one day and decided to build all this. Besides the girth giving, obviously, I feel like it'd probably be at the top of your list. Something besides that, what's like a cool moment that you've had?
Personal moment, the coolest is when I saw my counter hit 1,000 people for the first time. That was like 2,000 was really cool, but 1,000 was like, it had been a dream of mine, man. Like once I started picking up some Steam, and I remember hitting 500 for the first time, and I was like, oh my god! I actually remember it was either 1,000 or the first time that I hit 100 viewers. The first time I hit 100 actually might have been even cooler. Because I remember sitting there and I'm streaming and like every day I'd get like 50, 55 people in one day, just randomly. I must have been on the recommended or something. And I just watched the number go up to like 70. And I'm sitting there and I'm like trying to stream, but I'm like looking at it and I'm like, there ain't no way. We're not doing it, are we? We're going to do it. Oh, we did it. And I'm like, I got off and I'll never forget how like just high I felt. Like, oh my God, dude, I cannot believe it. I hit 100 viewers by myself. Like nobody did this for me, And then the next day I booted up and I had like 42 people. And I remember how crushed I was. I was like, oh man, I suck again, And that's just like, that literally is content creation in a nutshell. You're like, I'm so high, I'm so low. And if you can kind of like ride those balances is pretty cool. But I'd say the 100 people closely followed up by the 1,000. Seeing your Streamlabs, like I use Streamlabs. I'm not an OBS guy, but like seeing my Streamlabs move to 4 digits without anybody rating me was like, this is really, really kind of incredible, man, that there's 1,000 people in my stream right now like 700 of them appear to be talking because I can't read any of this shit that's happening right now, but I'm doing my best. And yeah, man, it's just I feel like that's just a really cool feeling. You know, it was a really cool feeling.
Yeah, I hear people talk about that all the time. Like when they hit those like kind of big number milestones, that's normally I feel like a lot of people like biggest thing is like
Yeah.
50, and then you see 100, and then you see, like 200 or whatever it is, and like you said, you're talking about like you hit 1,000, and you just like they just kind of add up, and it's just like
Yeah.
yo,
Yeah, but then when they taper back down,
when they taper
it
back down, it's
really
like-
is like, yeah, it really is like, oh man, I don't know if I'll ever have it that good again.
That is, but that's content creation, man. You got to be able to, like
Yeah.
we talked about earlier, that mental. You just got to be able to overcome that, and just I talked about it last week, that you just got to be able to, for every good moment, right? There's always going to be a bad moment. But in my personal belief, I feel like the good moments are always going to be able to carry you through the bad ones, right? For every bad moment, you're going to have like two good ones, stuff like that.
Mhm.
So you kind of just got to ride, like you talked about, ride those waves and just kind of keep that going and be able to get through
Yeah.
the bad ones.
For sure. Yeah, it's tough, but it's really the only option you got, right?
Yeah. Now, like we said, you pretty much only stream Madden. Like sometimes when you do your subathons, you'll stream some other stuff in between. If you could stream any game and you would get the same amount of viewers you get now, and you get whatever, I know money, you don't really do it for the money, because it's not your job, and you could stream anything, what would you do?
Power wash.
No way. Are you serious?
I'm dead serious, dude. I'm dead serious. I'm a huge power wash guy. Listen, there's something like tranquil about it, right? Like I'm power washing and I'm like, I just feel so calm and satisfied. And I do it with J-Bug most of the time, who's a good friend of mine. And yeah, I love chatting with him and just kind of like, you know what I mean? It's just like you're on with a buddy, right? You're just like, you're hanging out with your buddy and you're just, knocking these out, and like you beautify this building. And then honestly, you want to know why I love it so much, Rowdy? At the end of every single map, they like do like a quick, like recap. And so it shows you like, like flying around. And I'm like, oh yeah, it feels so good. I love watching that building get clean. Bad, but I love it.
You know what? I can't even blame you, because so the first time I ever got introduced to games like that was a game called House Flipper, which I think is made by the same people, or it might be the same company that made Power Wash Simulator, but it's called House Flipper, and you just flip houses, and it's kind of the same thing. Like you have to paint like each piece of wood, you got to replace the tiles, and like you got to make sure that it fits the customer's needs to get the most money out of the house. And after I get done, it'll be like, you got 5 stars, and you made an extra $40,000 that you would have made if you would have changed the towels. And I'm like, oh yeah, baby, let's go.
That's what I'm saying. Some of the best gaming, dude, is like, I don't know, it's like a personal experience. You know what I'm saying? And I just really enjoy that game. It's like mindless to a large extent, and I think that's helpful too with all the stuff that I have going on all the time. It's just like kind of therapeutic. I do love Madden though, man. I loved what Madden once was. I struggle with it now, but like I did love, like I didn't just start doing the pack thing. I was doing that outside of Twitch, right? Like before I ever streamed, like I was rolling, I am the reason kind of, or at least a big part of the reason that now we have such terrible rolls, I think. What ended up happening during that zero chill and the Fritzy shuffle, it kind of really screwed things up, man. We haven't had a good roll since. And like to some extent I feel bad that, because I never intended to share that information. I had told the guys in my stream team what I was doing. And do you remember a gentleman by the name of Goon Platoon?
Yeah, I think I remember him.
Yeah, he came into my stream, saw what I was doing, and decided he was going to tell everybody. And the next thing you know, I see his stream title is the Fritzy Shuffle, and he's in Adam's stream, and he's in Kay's stream, and he's in everybody's stream. He's like, guys, if you just do this, then you can just make coins and never stop rolling. And Todd can vouch for me. I remember telling Todd when this happened, I'm like, it's over, dude. It's over. They're just nobody had ever done that. Because like people would do rolls and be like, we'll take the 93s and we'll put them into this set, and then we sell the 88s, and then we keep the 86s, and then we do this with the 84s. And I'm like, no, just quick sell everything and keep the LTDs. I'm making tons of profit, right? And it was just so simple that nobody was doing, nobody had just decided to do that. And literally rolls have never been good again. And I feel completely, at least not completely, but a portion to blame for this whole secondary thing that started happening in MUT. And pack odds have sucked ever since, man. And that sucked a lot of the fun, a lot of the value out of the game for me.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm gonna say this: every company that is putting out unfinished products, we're gonna blame Fritzy from now on.
No, that's crazy. Now we're talking crazy.
Now he's behind all of it. I knew it. That's what it is. It's a
You're the worst.
But no, on a serious note, man, I want to thank you so much. Before we get out of here, is there anything you want to say to people out there who are, up and coming content creators, or just still out there grinding, trying to get their way to partner, or just build that platform like you have? Got any tips out there for anybody that's just feeling a little bit down right now?
I would say just show up every day. Streaming, just like anything else, is a program, and allowing people to not have to know when you're going to go live is a really big deal. People aren't good at change. If you say you're going to be live at 4:00 every day, then be live at 4:00 every day. And if it's 4:10 and you're not already live, don't stream, because you don't want to set a precedent that your program is going to run at any other time than that. I think that it's very tough in this sphere without that level of consistency to grow. And I think it takes time no matter what. So, my best advice would be show up when you say that you're going to be there. Be there on your schedule every time. If you miss your schedule, don't say, hey, I wasn't able to get on at 5, so I'll stream tonight at 7. Because now people are going to be confused about when you get on. And then I think the other portion is, man, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just have fun. The tighter you are in this space, the easier it is for people to notice. People will have fun if you're having fun. And, I think that's something you have to actually be mindful of is, am I having fun with what I'm doing right now? Because if you're not, nobody else is either.
Yeah, that is true. You gotta have fun. Space. You have to. If you don't have fun, you're not gonna make it long. You won't. Or if you're, people can see right through it too. Like I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is like, oh, they, I can put on this, facade and they won't be able to see through it. I promise you that viewers, I'm telling you right now, don't ever get on and try to put on this facade, because viewers can see straight through it. Some people might not, some creators out there think, oh, they can't, but trust me, they can. They can see it from a mile away and they will leave immediately, not come back.
Yep. Yeah. Well, listen, if you're not having fun, how can you expect somebody else to? So yeah, it's just kind of the nature of the beast, man. Keep a good head on your shoulders, keep excited, and if you don't feel like you can do that, take some time to find what's going to work for you, which is where I've been at, for the last couple of weeks here, now that I've gotten rid of the panic attacks. But the other thing I wanted to say was thank you for the opportunity to come on, Rowdy. I do always appreciate having the talks and getting the opportunity to share my story, because it's therapeutic for me as well to be able to share it. So
I thank you for coming on, man. I'm always glad to bring on, my friends on here who have a lot of success, have a lot of wisdom out there, and I learn a lot from these podcasts as much as the other people that listen to them. So that's why I love doing them, because I'm always learning new stuff to be able to implement into my own content creation journey and be able to step it up. So I appreciate you dropping us with your knowledge and wisdom.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you, brother.
So much. I appreciate you, man.
All right.
Peace out.